another episode of the Senior Focus. Happy that you could join us today. We have a full house here today. Senator Harriet Chandler was gracious enough to accept our late invitation to join us. Senator Michael Moore is here with us today, and Bob Dwyer is here with us today.
Hey, Nick.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine. Senator Chandler, thank you for coming in at such late notice and joining with us today.
It's always a pleasure to deal with you.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you with us. Same with you, Mike. Thanks for joining us today. I wanted to talk a little bit about some kind of background, biographical background. I'm sure that the people that are watching know who it is that we have here today, but it's a tremendous show with some tremendous people, and I'd like for them to know who everyone is. So, Senator Chandler, let's start with you.
I guess the first thing I can say is that I'm a senior, so I belong on the show. But I'm the state senator for the 1st Worcester District. I've been a state representative before that for 6 years. I got involved in health care, and I care deeply about senior health care because I think we're all aging, and this is something that we really need to make sure that we have the right legislation in place, and that I've been trying to do.
Senator Moore?
Well, I represent the 2nd Worcester District, which is the towns of Millbury, Grafton, Shrewsbury, Upton, Leicester, half of Northbridge, and then roughly about the southern half of the city of Worcester. I'm in my 2nd term. Prior to being a state senator, I was a selectman in the town of Millbury for 8 years, where actually I got involved in some senior issues there, establishing the senior circuit breaker program for the town. And then I also worked at the sheriff's office for 4 years. And when I was with the sheriff's office, I oversaw the Triad program, which was the senior safety programs that the sheriff's office did in conjunction with the town senior citizens, or the Council of Aging, and the local police. It was 3 groups that tried to establish safety programs or any sort of program that would help the town provide a program at efficient costs and provide some safety issues for the seniors.
Both of you are very well known for the advocacy efforts that you've undertaken for the senior population. I commend both of you for it.
Thank you.
Bob, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, sure. I'm the executive director of Central Massachusetts Agency on Aging, and I've been the executive director for about 12 years now. And worked at the agency before that as director of planning and community development. I have been working in aging services either at the agency or in adult day health centers for almost 20 years. I also teach gerontology at the University of Massachusetts in Boston.
What kind of things does the Central Mass Agency on Aging do?
Well, we do all sorts of things. We do a lot of needs assessment and then planning around needs of seniors and caregivers throughout the region, 61 cities and towns, Worcester being the largest. And then we also take those priorities that we have set and use federal money to grant money to programs so that they can start filling some of the needs that are out there. So under the Older Americans Act and Title III, we'll fund things like Meals on Wheels, we'll fund things, meals in senior centers, some transportation, some health prevention, health promotion, disease prevention, along with other certain things that like legal assistance. So we fund the programs, and we also have a great website where people can get information at all sorts of days, all sorts of nights, 24/7. So information that's either for seniors themselves or for caregivers to help them through.
So we have with us basically 3 heavy hitters that advocate for the needs of the senior population. We really do. I know that you laugh, but this is serious.
Oh, yeah, no, it's
And
serious.
there's been a lot of advocacy that's been undertaken by the 3 of you on behalf of the senior population. Let's talk about some of the bills or law that has been promulgated. I believe the first one that we should talk about is the Foreclosure Prevention Act. Basically when I think of this particular bill, I think of assistance for people that are having difficulty paying back whatever indebtedness that they have. I'm not exactly certain how this is undertaken, but perhaps you guys can tell me that.
Well, I think first, what this bill tries to address is some of the loans that were issued before the collapse of the economy where maybe some of the people taking out the mortgages wouldn't have necessarily qualified for them. So this tries to add some protection so that that won't happen again. And for people who are in that situation, there's some remedies. There's some counseling that's provided that they won't end up on the street. This requires some counseling where if you're an individual whose mortgage, you have a problem meeting the financial obligation of your mortgage, the bank has to come in, or the lender has to come in and do a financial assessment of your financial situation and see if it's beneficial for the mortgage foreclosure to go through, or it now allows them to actually revise the mortgage, your payments on a monthly basis so that you can stay in your home.
Now, is this a bill that is geared toward loan modification?
Yes.
Or is it something that's geared toward someone who wants to take out a mortgage in the first place?
No, it's really geared toward loan modification. Basically, one of the reasons that people get into this situation is that they, in this case, as the senator's already said, they took out loans that they really couldn't handle in the first place. Mortgages were just too easy to get. And that's the unfortunate thing. So what was included in this bill is a 150-day, what they call a cure period. It gives them 150 days to try to find whether they should take this loan modification or not. There's another piece to this that I think is extremely important that is the controversial piece, which I offered as an amendment to the Senate bill, and that was not included in the final conference report, and I think that's too bad. I think mediation makes a huge, huge difference here. It's the opportunity to sit down with the bank or with whoever you've taken the mortgage from and work out your differences and try to find a solution to the problem. And we have had very few problems with community banks. Although Worcester County is the largest foreclosure group in the state. I mean, this is unbelievable. I mean, it's nice to be number one, but who wants to be number one in
this area? Not in this regard, right.
So we're number one here, and it makes a huge difference. Banks like the Bank of America, for example, which is a large bank with tens of thousands of these foreclosed housing, they don't have time to do this kind of personal involvement to try to see how they can make this work. And that's really too bad, because that's what you need here. You need to find out. I offered it as an amendment because I had seen that it worked in Maine and it worked in Maryland. Those were one of the last two states. We're one of the few states that doesn't offer this now, this mediation issue. And I think it's too bad. I mean, the Senate accepted it, the House turned it down, and that's unfortunate.
We heard both of you talk about the ease with which people were able to secure loans, and I presume we're talking about the savings and loan debacle and how easy it was to get the loans and so forth. This is different in kind to what happened then.
But it's the same thing. It's a bank that says, you have a job, you earn a living, take our mortgage. And that's unfortunate because, a lot of people are only one paycheck away from foreclosure. And when that job is lost, and we've had so many jobs lost in this 4-year recession that we've been going through, they're the people that now are homeless. And the banks are stuck with a home that is going to be vandalized if you don't turn it over quickly. Look at our homeless numbers. I mean, they're rather pathetic, and especially here in Worcester County. I mean, it's hard to imagine whole families, who are living in homeless shelters. And we're trying to do the best job we can, and we have wonderful homelessness groups here. But it just can't keep up with the pace.
Talking about homelessness, I'm going to refer to the Elder Economic Security Standard. Are you familiar with that, Bob?
Yeah, that came out of, I think it was Boston University?
I I think UMass Boston.
Was it UMass
UMass
Boston,
Boston?
my own place?
Yes, UMass Boston.
Well, I teach in the Aging Services Management Program. So, yeah, they looked at what it costs to actually live in Massachusetts.
Right.
And frankly, what they found is that people are barely making 2/3 of what it takes to really live in Massachusetts.
Right.
So they're living in a lifestyle that really is almost requiring them to get into debt, and it helps them to stay in debt because it's not encouraging anything else but. So if, for example, you're thinking it's going to cost $20,000 for someone to live and that's not a lot of money, but for someone to live in Massachusetts, that means they're probably making $16,000.
Right.
So it's that kind of differentiation. And they looked at all the aspects, whether it's rent or food or utilities, all that came into play. And people just not making enough money to keep up with that cost of living.
You know, this is another instance where, regretfully, Massachusetts is number one and is leading the pack in having the widest gap between what a senior needs to be able to remain in the community and what their income actually is. And, you know, you take a look at the certain expenses that are necessary for a person to remain independent in their home. Housing costs, of course, are a significant costs that need to be, you know, taken care of by an individual. In the event this kind of legislation wasn't available when the standard was initially published, you know, hopefully this will provide some relief to people and help narrow that gap.
We did something last year that was very important. We said that people who were tenants could continue to live in their apartment, their home, as long as they continued to pay their rent. Because what would happen would be a house would be foreclosed, and the tenant also would be out on the street too. That doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't, because that's only adds to the homelessness problem. So that no longer is true. If you pay your rent, you can stay where you are.
And there's an obligation upon the lender or the financial institution when they're dealing with someone who's applying for a loan or a mortgage. Because what happens is, again, we have the person now who can't meet the financial obligations, who are out on the street, they're homeless. And as Senator Chandler said, now we've got a neighborhood that's got vacant property, abandoned property, which becomes a public safety hazard. So there's many effects from one negative occurrence that can spread to other areas. I mean, we have the city of Worcester and other areas where houses are being broken into. They're stealing the copper, the pipes. So there's other issues that are taking place with the homelessness also, or the mortgage crisis.
It's such a terrible economy. People are trying to make money any way they can. If that means breaking into someone's home and stealing copper pipes, that's what they do.
There is one aspect that, and granted, the mediation would have been a fantastic piece to get as part of this, but there's also an aspect where the Attorney General's office, for people who are subject to this, meet the qualifications, the Attorney General's office is available so that they can provide some counseling regard to the modification of a loan.
How many people do you think that this law will impact? How many people do you think it's going to help?
I don't really know what the numbers are.
Okay.
But they're huge.
I've heard upwards of 100,000 families.
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Some stats we got since 2007, the seniors, the number of seniors over 75 at risk of losing their home has increased from 1 in every 300 to 1 in every 30 senior citizens. And we actually seen an increase in Massachusetts in the petitions filed for foreclosure has increased from 694 to 1,394.
Those are striking numbers.
They're very striking numbers, and, you know, especially when you compare that to what the national poverty level is, and trying to understand what that is when you realize how many elders, you're talking approximately 30% of elders are living within about 125 to 133% of the poverty level. That doesn't mean they're making a lot of money. And in fact, when you figure that the poverty level itself at 100% is between $12,000 and $13,000, you know, you get to 135% of that. That's not a lot of bucks. It just isn't.
And many seniors are living on a fixed income, many of whom retired at an early age when their pension, if they were lucky enough to have a pension, wasn't a very big one. I mean, we see this with our school teachers, we see this with our police, with our firefighters, who've been retired for a while. They're really just scrimping by.
It all boils down to one thing: the economy. The economy is in such tough shape right now that there really isn't any funding for any programs that are so important for people, and unless the budget itself, and I think the deficits are addressed, I think we're going to have this problem going on. In any event, we're going to need to head to a break right now. When we come back, we'll have more Senior Focus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Millbury Healthcare Center is a highly respected 5-star deficiency-free skilled nursing and rehabilitation center. We are renowned for our compassionate care and specialty programming, making it possible for your next step, returning home. We listen and take the time to understand your goals. We provide support and the tools needed to safely prepare for your transition home. Millbury Healthcare Center is the community choice for skilled nursing and rehabilitation.
Does your loved one suffer from memory impairment, dementia, or Alzheimer's disease? Consider Dodge Park Rest Home in Worcester. Our geriatric medical team and nursing staff are available 24 hours a day. We offer medication administration and incontinence care with dignity. Our activity programs are designed to engage and stimulate the mind. And with Dodge Park Rest Home, you can better protect your estate and save your assets with only a 1-year look back. Your loved one will feel safe and at home with Dodge Park Rest Home of Worcester.
Charter TV3 and UMass Memorial Healthcare have teamed up to bring you the latest news and trends in healthcare. Health Watch, presented by UMass Memorial Healthcare, brings you the healthcare topics that are important to you. From stroke prevention to allergies, skincare to sports injury prevention, and nutrition to pregnancy, Health Watch and UMass Memorial Healthcare informed you on the issues that affect you on a daily basis. Health Watch on Charter TV3. For extended interviews with UMass Memorial Healthcare experts, log on to our website.
I know everybody agrees with me that it's wonderful to see construction cranes in Worcester, despite the economy. We've got the mall going down, we've got buildings going up. Here in the Canal District, we've got streetscape happening, the colleges are all building. Things are happening in Worcester. We hope to be talking about all the issues that affect Worcester. There's a lot of development going on despite the economy, a lot of interesting politics, always our share of scandal and whatnot, and we hope to have a lively repartee.
Charter Business helps businesses achieve everyday victories. Want to be victorious today? Call 877-BIZ-BUNDLE and switch to Charter Business Internet and phone for just $99 a month. You'll enjoy internet 6 times faster than standard DSL, plus unlimited long distance. Getting a business bundle for just $99 a month makes for an easy decision. But hurry, because this offer won't last. So call 877-BIZ-BUNDLE today. To the victor go the spoils!
Tired of weather reports that don't focus on Central Mass? Introducing Worcester Weather, the only video weather report for Worcester. Worcester Weather is easily accessible 24/7 by visiting chartertv3.com. It is updated throughout the day to give you the best video forecast possible. Worcester Weather also airs at 5 p.m. during the Jordan Levy Show and every Worcester News Tonight telecast. Worcester Weather gives you the local forecast you have always wanted. Worcester Weather on Charter TV3 and chartertv3.com. Brought to you by Berterra Nissan of Auburn.
I'm Caitlin Tivnan from Worcester News Tonight. Thank you for choosing Charter.
Welcome back to the Senior Focus. I'm your host, Attorney Nick Kaltsis, and I'm joined today by Senator Harriet Chandler, Senator Michael Moore, and Bob Dwyer, the Executive Director of the Central Mass Agency on Aging. Senator Chandler, I wanted you to expound a little bit, if you would, on the portion of the foreclosure bill that you think was an important element that didn't make it through, the mediation portion?
It's the mediation portion. Basically, we wanted to say that banks would be prohibited from pursuing foreclosure on a homeowner unless they've first taken reasonable and good faith efforts to avoid foreclosure.
You know, my question is, what does that exactly mean? If there isn't mediation, if people don't get together and exchange opinion
Exactly.
and talk about things, are there specific elements of this bill that would establish whether something is fair and reasonable?
Well, I think it would make them sit down. In many cases, they just get notices
Right.
from the bank, from the owner, from the holder of the mortgage. And I talked to a lot of people on the subject before we went forward with it, and people say that, you know, the banks say they can't even get people to open the mail to tell them that they have a potential foreclosure. They just don't want to hear about it. They want to stick their heads in the sand and maybe it'll go away. They're in real denial about this.
And what's sad is we know it's not going away.
It's not going to go away, and what they have this 150-day period in which they can basically determine what kind of modification is possible based on how much the person makes and what they can afford to pay.
Now, the 150 days, is that a period
That's not a mediation period.
No, but that's a period that's imposed upon
Yes.
them where they can't initiate the
That's
foreclosure.
exactly correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
The thing that 23 other states have in mediation is something called judicial mediation, which they go before a judge. And there is, in other words, an impartial third party. And that makes it a difference because it brings some impartiality. It's not somebody who's waiting to get their money, but it also is somebody who can help them figure out how they can hold on to their house and what they can afford to pay. And that's important.
So if someone gets the notice or they're about to get the notice, how do they initiate this process? I mean,
They just call back, and the process is immediately initiated in a mediation.
so they call but here in
the holder
Massachusetts
of the
without the
money.
mediation,
Well, they have this 150-day time frame now,
and that's
in
what
which
they have,
can.
and they need to contact the bank?
They need to contact the bank and see how they can modify this loan.
No, we don't have the mediation, which again
Right.
is a major piece to this, but we do have the language in this authorizing the Attorney General's office to have specialists in loan modification, so making people available to assist individuals who may get the notice. But again, the language is not as strong as the mediation piece.
Who conducts the actual analysis if the bank is better off foreclosing on a property or modifying a loan and receiving modified payments?
I would think that they have to modify if they possibly can.
And I think that's where a specialist in the Attorney General's office may be able to help
Right.
advise someone as far as, these are the payments, this is what you're facing, but there's no legal standing or no legal support as that the mediation would require.
And it's too bad, because I know that, we've all talked about at one point or another reverse mortgages. And before a consumer can enter into a reverse mortgage, they have to go through counseling of some sort.
Right.
They have to know what all the ramifications are of this. And it seems to me that this mediation piece would have at least helped a little bit in terms of the same thing and assisting the homeowner in understanding the whole process rather than relying on a bank or having to contact the Attorney General's office. That this was written into that law for reverse mortgages, it would have made sense to write this into a law here around
Wouldn't
this
it?
foreclosure case.
Otherwise, the bank just becomes the holder of real estate, and they're not in the real estate business. And as we said earlier, during that process, vandalism can occur. People are, the house is empty. That's the last thing.
And then the whole value of the housing
whole
stock in
value
that
goes down.
neighborhood. When you consider possibly an older couple who's been living in the same house for 50 years, the house next door is foreclosed, so that's going to hell in a handbasket. And these people want to sell their home, but now their home is going to be devalued because of what's going on next door.
Exactly. And we're seeing a lot of that, a lot.
I hearken back to the fact that this could have a rather significant effect on the Elder Economic Security Standard. Just to see Massachusetts lead the pack is not something I'm proud of. And looking at the fact that 23 other states have employed this kind of assistance for their citizens, perhaps when this begins to help the citizens of our state, Massachusetts won't lead the pack anymore.
Well, bankers don't exactly like mediation. Let me explain why.
Okay.
They're saying that if you have mediation and extend it further, that just buys time for the person who's being foreclosed, but it doesn't solve the problem in many cases. So what they're saying is it just extends out the problem rather than solving the problem. I don't quite agree with that. I think what you do we already have 150 days in here. We use that 150 days effectively and bring in some counseling help, as Senator Morris said that the Attorney General's office is going to offer, but they don't have to. There is nothing that requires the person who is in foreclosure to seek help, and that's the problem. They're embarrassed, they're ashamed, they're worried, they're anxious. They're all the things that we understand and realize, but you can't force a horse to water, I guess is the old saying, and they don't want to think about this.
Argument if there's 150 days and there's a moratorium imposed on these banks and they can't proceed on a foreclosure, just like you said, Senator Chandler, to be able to utilize that 150 days effectively and get the most out of that time, it only makes sense to have some kind of a mediation process where people can get together and try to air out their differences and try to come to some kind of, a successful conclusion.
I've been helped. I have to give credit where credit is due here. I've been helped tremendously in this by Grace Ross, who is a Worcester woman who has really led the efforts here. And I know that I plan to file this again as an amendment to this bill, because maybe next year things will be different. Maybe they will look at things differently. But
are there eligibility requirements to be able to participate in this loan modification program? Are there things that you have to satisfy before you're eligible to participate?
Well, it's going to be an owner-occupied building. You have to. It's going to be a loan considered to be in jeopardy of going into foreclosure. It's called the teaser. Teaser type loans. Actually, what else we have? And it's going to be or it could be an extension of a loan for repayment. I think that's
it.
Yeah.
I think it's important that it applies for those people that need help with their primary residence. It doesn't apply to people who are renting properties and want relief from some business venture that didn't turn out the way they wanted to. These are people that need relief so that they're able to stay in their homes.
You're absolutely right.
I think it's a tremendously effective way to help Massachusetts down the road.
But this bill, even what we've done so far, is a step in the right direction. I mean, it gives people an opportunity to work with the bank, but they've got to take advantage of it. They can't, they can't be in denial that this is not going to happen to them.
So one thing I've learned over the last 4 years is so often people talk about the state or the Commonwealth not offering programs to assist people. But we actually have, as you get more involved, we actually have quite a few programs that are needed and essential that are out there, but people just don't utilize. As Senator Chandler said, they're afraid to reach out. They may be embarrassed, but if they reach out to the local representative or to someone, there's so many things out there that we can try to provide assistance on.
Yeah, I agree. I think there are a lot of programs that are available. I think the challenge for you people is going to be, is there sufficient funding so that you can fund those programs? Because once there isn't, and some of the proceeds that are necessary to keep these programs in place dwindle down, people that have real needs, those needs to go unaddressed.
And they're going to fall through the cracks. That's what I worry about, the person who does fall through the cracks, who is embarrassed and who doesn't want to deal with it. Maybe doesn't even understand. Maybe they don't speak English. I mean, that maybe isn't their first language. Somebody talked them into buying a house that said, you're able to buy it. Maybe they lost their job, or maybe they are in danger of losing their job. They need some help, and the Senator is right in saying they've really got to take advantage of the opportunities that do exist.
I think in terms of the older population, that whole aspect of How did I get myself into this? I don't want my family to know this. I don't want the neighbors to get hold of this. This information is bad. I'm better than this. That whole embarrassment piece is very, very significant for them. But I think also the other side is, of all these programs that we do have, there's that whole outreach piece that the state needs to be doing, or some of the agencies that work with the state that need to be doing to help people understand that these are the programs that are there, that there is no embarrassment in participating in these programs. I remember years ago when my parents were, my father had had major heart surgery, he was out of work, my mother wasn't working, and they asked me to give them a ride to the unemployment office, and they were going to apply for food stamps or whatever it was at that point. And they cried all the way there and cried all the way back. And when you consider what people were getting for food stamps 25 or 30 years ago, it was just a few dollars a month. It was not a lot. But the reality is,
Pride here.
the pride was there.
Yeah.
You know, and that generation particularly saw this as welfare, saw this as something that they shouldn't have to have, because they had worked hard and worked all their lives to not have that. And yet, as I try to tell them as the years went on, these are put here now as benefits to you because you did work hard, because you do need the help, because people, the government, the state, the feds do care about what happens to you. You know, but you've got to participate in this. You've got to make sure that you're taking advantage of what you can take advantage of.
Well, I think also in the programs are there to provide assistance. It's I think that the argument you get into is when you have people that are utilizing these emergency assistance programs for long-term lifestyle. You know, everyone works every day, and you know they're proud and they want to feel respect for what they do. But when you're seeking assistance from the state, there should be no embarrassment. If you are in a situation,
worked for it.
if you're in a situation where you need some relief or some help, and look, over the last 4 years, we've had a tough economy.
If a
many people who need help.
person has worked for it and is in need, of course, I think that they should get the relief that they need. Certain statistics I find very frightening. Do you know 1 out of 7 people in this country are on food stamps right now? I think that's a burden that is going to be very, very difficult, if not impossible, for the government to sustain. But in any event, we're going to head to a break right now, and when we come back, let's talk about elder abuse.
Okay.
Does your loved one suffer from memory impairment, dementia, or Alzheimer's disease? Consider Dodge Park Rest Home in Worcester. Our geriatric medical team and nursing staff are available 24 hours a day. We offer medication administration and incontinence care with dignity. Our activity programs are designed to engage and stimulate the mind. And with Dodge Park Rest Home, you can better protect your estate and save your assets with only a 1-year look back. Your loved one will feel safe and at home with Dodge Park Rest Home of Worcester.
Millbury Healthcare Center is a highly respected 5-star deficiency-free skilled nursing and rehabilitation center. We are renowned for our compassionate care and specialty programming, making it possible for your next step, returning home. We listen and take the time to understand your goals. We provide support and the tools needed to safely prepare for your transition home. Millbury Healthcare Center is the community choice for skilled nursing and rehabilitation.
We represent the Worcester Tree Initiative Young Adult Foresters.
Since 2009, the city has planted 2,800 street trees.
Trees need to be watered 2 to 3 times per week during the summer for 2 years after they've been planted.
Here is one way we help nurture recent planted trees.
We fill the gator bags with water, and water is slowly released into the soil, and it helps the tree establish itself.
As we continue to plant, it's everyone's responsibility to maintain newly planted trees.
To learn more, visit treeworcester.org.
Charter Business helps businesses achieve everyday victories. Want to be victorious today? Call 877-BIZ-BUNDLE. Switch to Charter Business and start saving over $50 a month. You'll enjoy internet 6 times faster than standard DSL, plus phone with unlimited long distance. Saving your business over $50 a month makes for an easy decision. It's indecision that'll cost you. So call 877-BIZ-BUNDLE today. To the victor go the spoils.
Splash into summer with Worcester Wheels to Water. Sign up now for the fun, safe swimming and recreation program running from July 5th through August 12th.
Can't have a better summer day than that. You and your friends would be awesome.
Program includes free bus transportation to pools and beaches, recreation programs including sports clinics, arts and crafts, and summer reading. To register, call Friendly House at 508-755-4362 or visit worcesterma.gov. Promotional message provided by the City of Worcester and Charter TV3.
They aimed to eliminate the use of electronic benefit transfer cards to purchase items including tattoos, guns, and pornography.
And new details tonight in a deadly shooting involving a Massachusetts state trooper.
I'm WTAG's Jordan Levy. Join me on the Jordan Levy Show weekday afternoons on Charter TV3. And thank you for choosing Charter.
Welcome back to the Senior Focus and our full house with Senator Chandler, Senator Moore, and Bob Dwyer. I want to talk about elder abuse. It's prevalent in our society. You know, because of the work I do as an elder law attorney, I mean, you know, some might say, well, you're an attorney, so you only see the ugly things that happen. The incidence of elder abuse in our society today is staggering. I don't know that I want to say it's reached epidemic levels, because perhaps it hasn't, but it's far more prevalent than one would think.
This is a subject that a friend of all of ours, Rosalie Wolf, made a subject that we could talk about. I mean, it was not even known before that people would harm elderly people. And she became a true advocate for this. And one of the things that we're finding is it's not easy to deal with the issue. We've tried to deal with it in terms of, I got involved because I had a constituent who has a home health agency and had to send somebody into somebody's home and they were stealing. And they said, but I checked, I did queries on them. I know that they were all right. It turned out they were all right. In this state, with this alias, they were all right. But you don't know what other names they use and what happens in other states. We don't have that opportunity to check. I mean, it's a real problem.
Yeah, there's been a rash of publicity in the Sunday Worcester Telegram and Gazette with respect to crimes having been committed by home health care workers.
Well, and that's physical abuse of elders isn't just physical. You know, you've got emotional, you've got neglect, abandonment. So there's many there's many categories of abuse that people don't actually may not actually consider abuse to seniors.
I think that a lot of seniors think of abuse as something that's physical and physical only, and in reality, a lot of the abuse that you see take place today is financial exploitation, not physical abuse.
And that's true. And one of the things that we have seen, actually, in addition to that over the last several years, when you talk to any of the aging service access points and their protective services, they will tell you that there's been a huge increase in reports, or accusations at least, on all this. But part of that is also related to self-neglect and what that means for people. So it's a type of abuse, but it's like happening to me because I'm neglecting. I'm not taking my medication. I'm hoarding. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And so a neighbor will call. The postman will call. The person who delivers the home-delivered meals will call, or the program will call. And then that has also increased the numbers of that. But I think one of the things that came out in the Telegram story this past weekend was what happens when you're dealing or paying privately for a home health worker or a home care worker who has maybe made that Corey check, and for whatever reason, and yet comes in and takes advantage, financial advantage, and it may not even be physical abuse, but financial advantage of the individual, maybe stealing from the individual. And perhaps there's emotional abuse in the sense that they have the person very afraid that if they say something, then something bad will happen to them. there's that kind of power, and it really is. It's an abuse of power over an individual.
But you know, Bob, we really don't require any training for home health workers.
Do you even have to do a Cori check in Massachusetts? I don't think you have to do
You don't
a Cori
have to
check.
do it,
No,
but
it's
most
not
good
regulated.
agency, I mean, it's a
Right.
very unregulated
Right.
thing. And we had a bill this term that attempts to put 4 hours of training. 4 hours is nothing.
Right.
4 hours of training required for every home health worker. I would think that that's the minimum. You wouldn't want somebody coming in off the street and taking care of your loved one without any formal training at all.
Well, no, of course not. I mean, even social workers have a whole heck of a lot more than that, and they don't physically take care of the individual. So 4 hours of training is really absolute minimum, I would think, if it
It
does any
might
good
be
at all.
okay if you did 4 hours a quarter or something like that, but 4 hours period, it's kind of a scary proposition.
You think we've got seniors or elders who are in their house, may not be getting out of their house. So the only contact they have with the outside world is this home health aide that's coming in, providing them the service. That's their contact. And as you're saying, that's the power of the relationship they have with them. So there's so much of an opportunity for these people to be taken advantage of.
That's right. And then we get back to that whole other aspect we talked about in the other segment of, geez, I didn't know this was happening to me. Why is it happening to me? I don't want my family to know about that this is happening to me. I don't want the neighbors to know. I don't want to be in trouble. I don't want them to take me out of my home and put me into a nursing home because they don't think I'm capable of living alone.
That's very
Part
true.
of what I found particularly egregious in the articles that I read were these crimes that they were talking about were committed against people that were cognitively impaired. Now, whether someone has Alzheimer's or some kind of progressed dementia, they're not even going to be able to communicate what's happening. And, you know, there's going to be a reliance on the loved ones of that person to find out this is going on.
And some of it is from loved ones themselves.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the
there's
saddest part of it all.
There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that.
And I think, you know, over the course of the years, there's been legislation proposed and bits and pieces have passed that would assist an individual who's receiving care, assist them in actually paying a relative to care for them. And I think
that's allowed now.
It is allowed,
right?
But I think it's allowed within certain, you know,
Right.
parameters. And I think one of the reasons is because there has been such a history of families scamming their own people, you know, their own other family members. And so it's tough to regulate a family member as opposed to even attempting to regulate someone who's a neighbor from down the street and you're paying them to do this or whatever. You know, I think that you know, one of the things that one of the major unions has tried to do is formalize some of this stuff. SEIU has attempted to do that so that there is training involved. There is a little bit more of accountability that could be involved. And I think that also the Home Healthcare Association under Lisa Gorgoni, who's a local lady, has also tried to do that. And I think it's their training. That's their 4-hour training that is being proposed as essential to this program.
But we need more regulation in this industry. I mean, I know regulation is sort of a bad word to use.
Never mind more regulation. We need
regulation.
There's no regulation.
And you know, the same thing is true. Nursing homes are regulated and regulated very carefully. Rooming houses aren't. There's no regulation there either. And we have an aging population. We really have a responsibility to do more in this area than we have. It shouldn't just sort of evolve by itself because people are going to be hurt.
Social Security says 10,000 people a day turn 65 years of age.
Wow.
I mean, I can't fathom that number.
No, you know, we need oversight, but a lot of, going back to, and I guess similar to like the mortgage foreclosure problem we had, there's counseling. Individuals who are receiving these services we should be able to provide them some sort of counseling so that they know what their rights are, that they, or some knowledge that they know
They're
what to
so
watch out for.
alienated, though, Senator, that you know, these are people living in their homes alone. Alienated is not the right word. They're very isolated is the better word.
No, but if you have a home health agency coming in that's going to provide the staffing, well, maybe they should be required to provide counseling to the individual that these watch out for this.
I think the fox guarding the chicken house.
I think the whole problem is the bulk of the people that we're talking about are cognitively impaired, and it's going to be so difficult to try to explain anything to them. And the person typically that tries to isolate the person will be a family member that's looking to financially exploit the person.
But let's not forget that there are some programs in place for folks. You know, when you look at what happens with the Aging Services Access Points and the care management that they offer, or for the independent living centers and the skills facilitation that they do, options counseling, which is a relatively new program, all these things are in place, but again, have people know about them and have people access them.
Does Shine give any information about programs such as these?
And before you answer the Shine question, we have to head to a break right now. And when we come back, Bob's going to answer the Shine question.
Millbury Healthcare Center is a highly respected 5-star deficiency-free skilled nursing and rehabilitation center. We are renowned for our compassionate care and specialty programming, making it possible for your next step, returning home. We listen and take the time to understand your goals. We provide support and the tools needed to safely prepare for your transition home. Millbury Healthcare Center is the community choice for skilled nursing and rehabilitation.
Does your loved one suffer from memory impairment, dementia, or Alzheimer's disease? Consider Dodge Park Rest Home in Worcester. Our geriatric medical team and nursing staff are available 24 hours a day. We offer medication administration and incontinence care with dignity. Our activity programs are designed to engage and stimulate the mind. And with Dodge Park Rest Home, you can better protect your estate and save your assets with only a 1-year look back. Your loved one will feel safe and at home with Dodge Park Rest Home of Worcester.
Charter TV3 and UMass Memorial Healthcare have teamed up to bring you the latest news and trends in healthcare. Health Watch, presented by UMass Memorial Healthcare, brings you the healthcare topics that are important to you. From stroke prevention to allergies, skincare to sports injury prevention, and nutrition to pregnancy, Health Watch and UMass Memorial Healthcare informed you on the issues that affect you on a daily basis. Health Watch on Charter TV3. For extended interviews with UMass Memorial Healthcare experts, log on to our website.
Fridays on the job in Worcester.
Is that your lunch?
Yeah, just having a few chips, trying to finish some things up.
You should come out to lunch with us. There's a concert on the Common right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'd be game for that.
Yeah, let's go.
Escape the office. Come out to lunch every Friday this summer, beginning June 29th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the Worcester Common behind City Hall. Produced by the City of Worcester and the Worcester Cultural Coalition. Promotional message provided by the City of Worcester and Charter TV3.
Charter Business helps businesses achieve everyday victories. Want to be victorious today? Pick up the phone, switch to Charter Business, and start saving over $50 a month. You'll enjoy internet 6 times faster than standard DSL. Plus, business phone with unlimited long distance. If saving over $50 a month doesn't make your decision easy, this will. Call now and get up to a $500 gift card. But hurry, because this offer won't last. To the victor go the spoils!
Join me on the Hank Stoltz Experience. You know, people are always asking me, what is the experience? Well, that's the beauty of it. It's everything that has to do with Central Massachusetts. From the politics of the region to the great events that are going on each and every weekend or every night right here in Central Mass. It's everything that's going on. It's everything that you want to know about. And just like Kelly Square, where the traffic never stops, we never stop either. There's no red lights on the Hank Stoltz Experience, only on Charter TV3.
I'm Kristen Doucette from Worcester News Tonight. Thank you for choosing Charter.
Welcome back to the final episode of the final segment of the Senior Focus. Here with Senator Harriet Chandler, Senator Michael Moore, and Bob Dwyer, Executive Director of the Central Mass Agency on Aging. And Bob, I cut you off, and you were about to give an answer to Senator
Shine
Chandler.
problem.
Yeah, the shine question.
The shine question.
The shine question. And actually, no. They don't really talk about those types of programs. They will talk about the health insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, private insurance. However, most shine counselors are working hand in hand with other folks who work in information and referral. So whether it's our agency or an ASAP or even a council on aging, there will be someone else available for that shine counselor to do the handoff and say, you know, you want to talk to so-and-so about veterans benefits, you want to talk to them about this benefit or these other programs. Even the federal government has a thing online that someone can go on to called Benefits Checkup. And you click off what your needs are and it'll come up with that stuff, and it might be a good thing for the state to come up with that too. But the reality is that there are folks that work, again, with shine counselors, kind of in tandem with them, who can help.
Well, this is when you have, and again, a lot of people, again, don't utilize the resources available. I think every community has a council of aging or a senior center, and most senior center directors are knowledgeable with what's available for services. In some communities, and again, going back to when I was with the Sheriff's Office, the Triad programs, some police departments will have a senior liaison or an officer specializing in senior issues. So a quick call reaching out to the police department or even to your senior center director.
Or the area agency on aging or the aging service access point. I mean, all of us have specialists who are available.
Can we make those available? Can we make the telephone numbers available? Can
And-
we make,
and we
I
do.
mean,
And we
I
do.
think that's really critical.
It is critical, and it does happen. And I think what you face is what people in advertising face all the time. You have to keep getting it out there, keep putting it in someone's face, keep making sure they hear it. But a lot of people will not listen to it until they are in need.
And this is where it comes to the funding also. Obviously, we're very limited what we have for resources
Yeah, no doubt about
available
it.
to us
And
to
it's
get
becoming-
this information out there.
And it's becoming more and more challenging to fund these programs that are so important for people.
But with this highly mobile society that we live in, oftentimes there are no children nearby. Oftentimes the children are, you know, could be many states away or in another country even, so that the parent is pretty much on their own.
Right.
And that's the issue that we have to deal with. And as we get more and more of these seniors, people, you know, the baby boomers becoming seniors, this becomes even a greater problem that we really have to start to deal with.
And as you were saying, with computers today, that adds a whole other element of possible abuse or
Oh, it does.
of fraud
and,
for seniors.
and I can't tell you how many times I've gotten, you know, an email from the name of a friend who's stuck in London and lost their wallet.
Oh,
and then they expect you
we all do.
to send money. Not to mention Lord so-and-so from the Bank of Nigeria.
Who wants to share something
who wants
with
to
you.
share it with you.
Yeah.
And we all get that. And unfortunately, even here, you know, locally, there have been people who have actually bought into that.
Yeah.
And they have sent the money and wondering what happened to all their money. It's a sad situation.
Scams exist at every age and every place in the world. So that's the newest one.
To report elder abuse, do we have numbers that we want to share with our viewers?
Do you
I have
have
a
that?
couple numbers there. The
I don't have it.
Massachusetts Elder Abuse Hotline at 1-800-922-2275, or the Worcester Services of Worcester Protective Services at 508-852-3205.
Right, you can either call the state. That state hotline is there 24/7. You can call in Worcester Elder Services of Worcester. They have a protective services group there. No matter where you live, the Council on Aging would have the number for you. Any Aging Service Access Point or ASAP will have that number for you. The area agencies on aging will have that number available for you to call. So, you know, there are plenty of opportunities. If you just make the call, I guess that's the point. You have to make the call.
I know the Attorney General's office has an elder abuse program.
They do. They do.
I think even the DA's office, the District Attorney's office, has a program for elder abuse.
But
What
people-
scares me about protective services, in the event a person has a cognitive disability, you know, let's say they haven't been adjudicated incompetent, they haven't been to court, protective services comes out to the house, speaks to the person.
Says no.
If the person says, oh no, this is fine, this is exactly what I want to happen, protective services goes away, and I don't think that the abuse has been dealt with.
But then that's where this whole aspect of the self-neglect comes in. And then there are other avenues that they can take to look at this and be sure that everything's okay.
Nursing home abuse. The Worcester Area Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program at 508-756-1545 or 1-800-243-5111.
Actually, the ombudsman in a nursing home is posted on every floor so that you can, when you walk in there, you can see it. But with all of these wonderful numbers and opportunities, people have to be willing to make the call. They can't be afraid. They can't be, really fear it into silence, because if they are, then that abuse is going to continue.
You know, it's like I say, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
The more you know, the more power you have. But if you don't act on what it is that you know, it's not going to help you. It isn't going to do anything.
right.
So you can have these phone numbers. You can see a plaque on the wall that directs you where to call in the event you have a question about whether it's nursing home abuse and so forth. If a person, like you said, Senator Chandler, doesn't pick up the phone and speak with the other people, on the other end of the line.
But I think it also goes to knowledge is power. You've got to make the call, not be ashamed. But there's that disbelief factor too. That this person takes care of me. They're my my niece, my cousin, and
I trust them.
They wouldn't do that to me.
But we've just gone through a whole series of abuse issues.
Yeah.
And we are so aware that it happens at every stage,
But
in
no one
every
thinks- no one
institution.
thinks it happens to them.
Right.
It's always
exactly.
someone else.
You're right. You're absolutely
My
right.
brother wouldn't do that to me. Or my.
Right.
It is a difficult thing to think that a family member would take that kind of action. In any event, that's all for this week's show. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having
Thank you
Senator
for having
Chandler,
us. Yep.
Senator Moore,
Thank you.
Bob Dwyer, thank
Great
you
to
for
see you,
coming in
Senators.
today.
Likewise.
Pleasure.
And like I said before, knowledge is power. The more information that a person has, the more power they have. Join me next week for more Senior Focus. And if you have any comments or questions or concerns about today's program, please visit us on the Senior Focus website at www.theseniorfocus.com, or of course you can give me a call at my office, 508-755-6525. And of course, most of all, thank you for watching. See you next week.